I guess we'll just kick it off like we always do. So, welcome to Months in Motion. We are now on July's edition, flying through these now, halfway through the summer. I'm very excited to be joined by two very good friends of ours who also happen to run a fantastic branding studio based out in Hamburg. So, today we're joined by Jan and Paul from Hyperfocus. Welcome, guys. Great to have you here.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us. Hello. Good to see you guys anyway.
Yeah, and Jack for the first time as well. That's it, yeah.
In person as well.
In person.
Your first podcast.
That's it. First one.
You're nervous.
Oh, good. A little bit. Wait till he starts grabbing his sock. That's when I know.
Yeah, that's my tell. I'm like in a meeting, I'm like, oh.
No, you come across very confident, I think.
Should we address the elephant in the room before we get started?
Go for it.
That headgear. Right, let's get that out of the way first.
So we didn't plan this, did we? We all just kind of turned up. I mean, we're four stylish guys. It's gonna happen. We're gonna turn up in the oversized t-shirts, the matching caps.
What's the Pantone color of the year?
Blue.
It's blue, right?
Is it?
Yeah. You didn't know?
Not beige.
That's the difference between brand and motion, you know? So it works.
What, blue and beige?
That's it apart.
So we're going to be running this one a little bit differently to normal. Since there's four of us here, Jan suggested let's have it just more of a conversation, and I like that. I think we can just shoot the shit a little bit, talk from the heart, bit of passion, not much structure to it, and yeah, just kind of chat a little bit around everything motion related, unscripted. So we'll see how this one will go, but I think this is the best people to be doing it with because we know you very well. So
Sure.
look forward to kicking it off.
Yeah, we have done this once, twice, so we should be all right.
Yeah. I know I'm going to kind of put the reins in your hands, I think, for most of this because I'm also very tired. But no, really excited to have you on. Obviously, we know emotion is a big part of everything that you do branding wise. And it just made sense to get you on and to chat about it. The work your studio's been putting out some amazing work recently. Obviously had that feature on Creative Boom very recently, which was very cool to see, very well deserved. And you were in the top 25 studios, right? Or am I misremembering?
No, it's just Paul. Just him.
That was it. Just Paul. Top 25 creative, influential figures right now.
Top 20.
Top 20. Even better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, excited to hear a little bit about your kind of approaches to motion, like what your views are of like the present and the future, how you use it in Hyperfocus, and yeah, we'll just kind of like touch off on everything for that. I think I'd love to like kick off actually just talking about like why motion now. Like motion is, as we both know, it's really kind of exploded over the last few years. It's always been a big part of creative, but I think more than ever, like we're seeing agency studios like yourselves where it's becoming very integral to any kind of branding project that you work on. I'm curious from your perspective, when you're kind of like talking with potential clients, are you finding now that it's being asked for more, or is it something that you're kind of like talking brands into, hey, this is really important to have?
I think we use motion still like a differentiator as well, because I think a lot of other studios not using it as heavy as we probably do. Yeah, and because we just see like how like the eyes of our clients or potential clients, like if they, how they light up once they see something in motion and moving, and it's just a big difference also already in the sales process, to be honest, for us.
Yeah, you see it in the work that we show, but it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's asked for though. I think like the breakout requests over the years, I think first started with typography, that people became a bit more aware of typography and how that was unique. And then came tone of voice. So these became part of the conversation a lot more. And of course, UI, UX as well. But I think more so, it's understood, but not necessarily asked for. But as Jan said, it's an amazing way to deliver in the beginning stages as well, to get like people hooked and excited, because you can explain motion. So you can say, for example, we'll take your logo and it also has to move. But then you also might have different graphical elements that act in certain ways and move within inside of a space. But that's very abstract for somebody to understand, because already, we're already telling them that their logo is not their brand. But then you're going into the nuances. We're explaining what that could be through motion. So it's much more about a much bigger, broader, rounder package. So it's more like in the process, it evolves, it keeps showing up, and it just gets people really, really excited.
Awesome. And is that something you talk to with your clients when you sort of first chat about a project, like talking about how you could introduce motion and bring that in as part of the work?
We basically say we would definitely do it. We don't ask them if they want it. If they want to.
Yeah, because I think it's probably one of the things that would be cut straight away, like in the negotiation process as a brand studio. I think it's different if you're a motion studio, because they probably, as I said, it's a bit abstract. So if you're trying to negotiate a price and they're trying to shave off things, motion might happen to be one of those things, because it can be quite expensive, and it could be seen as making the process longer and not necessary at this stage. That's what you might hear. But if you don't actually kind of price it in the development phase, it just becomes creative. It's the same with, again, like I said, with tone of voice. It's like we will experiment with like different types of headlines or copy or like UI elements and stuff with inside of the design exploration, and present that. Emotion is part of that, but it's never like differentiated between each other and said, okay, that's that.
Yeah.
It's all one thing.
And we also do it to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
We don't do like the same thing you guys do. It's more like defining like the foundation for what motion could potentially become as well. Define like first behaviors for like how typography moves, or a logo, for example. Yeah, that's how we use it. Also, like I asked the team before our chat here, like, why is emotion so important for branding? And Jermaine, actually, shout out to Jermaine. He's our main motion guy here. He's awesome. He said like it's just a great tool to also tell like very simple little stories, right? And that's also when we start building brands and coming up with our first brand ideas and concepts, it's really an awesome tool to very easily deliver these simple ideas.
Yeah, totally. I think one of my favorite things about it, particularly in other branding spaces, that just off what Jermaine was saying about the little stories, it's like it elevates that tone of voice, right? Like if you're working into a tone of voice, like you can echo the tone of voice through the way that something moves. And I think it's really cool to hear that you kind of bake it in, because I totally agree with you. I think that there's a lot of brands out there where the first thing that they, like you said, that they want to drop when they're trying to cut budgets is motion. But it's so important nowadays. Like it's so important. It should be integral to most brands, because everything's moving right now. Everything's on screens, even if it's just small little hints of motion. Working on idents or the way that the logo moves or small little things like that. I think it's really important that all brands consider it. So it's cool to hear how you kind of just force it on them. I like that.
We sneak it in there.
No choice. No
Yeah.
choice.
But I think also also an important part of that is also in like we recently did a brand called Undiscovered, which there was a protagonist with inside of this whole experience, and it would not have worked without the elegance of motion to tell these very simple stories. And I think like The first time I saw that really was through Mailchimp when they first released like the chimp in the whole brand identity. And I mean, they're a go-to when it comes to tone of voice and the way that they created great stories. People often reference that, even though it's from a very long time ago. But they were like one of the first, I think, brandings that really I got to see like another layer explored through simple motion, through character. And definitely, that has helped inspire or influence like a way that we would look at character. And I think also a really good testament to that is the recent rebranding from Koto for what's it called? The travel Tripadvisor. Yeah. Like the owl is a really, really important part of the whole brand. You see it, you recognize it without even seeing the name. So you have this green and this owl. And in their storytelling over the last couple of years, it's got lost. Mm-hmm. And they revived it through this little nod. And that couldn't have been done without motion, and maybe a lot of these principles also go back to like old cartoons as well, and just the simplicity of the limitations back then. But taking those ideas and putting them in the modern context like that, I think just opens up a whole new world. So I think that's also a really good example of something that's happening today.
Yeah, I think, did you see the Buck as well, Buck Notion AI recently? That was a really cool one.
Yeah, with the kind of characters being drawn out with dots.
Yeah, so kind of similar, like it was just go back to say about the older animation. It was all done in Cell, and it was kind of like it was all done on sketching originally. And yeah, Buck basically just like helped bring the little Notion AI character, that little face, to life. So it has all these expressions, and I can't remember what the software was. I think it was Rive, right?
Rive, yeah. So it kind of links between like the different states of the faces. So you've got all these different expressions, and it kind of seamlessly transitions from one to the other, but all using Cell and hand-drawn animation, which looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. A lot of personality in that. But yeah, and also that, the Tripadvisor work. I mean, everything Koto's doing at the minute is awesome. But yeah, I think like that, I really like that kind of approach to like more simplistic character stuff using Cell and using that more. This actually kind of comes back to a point of from the last episode with How where we were talking about like lower frame rates and all this like that. I feel like there's a certain like emotive feeling that you can get with like lower frame rates and using that more kind of like frame by frame feel to something. And again, I think, as you said, Paul, it kind of like I think it's because of our kind of innate connection to animation from the old school days and when it used to be done, kind of hand drawn, etc. I think that those lower frame rates, particularly for anything character based, I feel adds a lot more like emotion.
Sets it part of it as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Have you balanced motion design that looks great versus motion design that is functional?
I'm just thinking my initial answer would be we just do motion design that looks great. No, we all have done the functional stuff.
Yeah, we're often creating guidelines, right? Motion principles.
Yeah, and we do like, I don't know, we animate how a logo is constructed, for example, which I assume is functional. I think you can make functional stuff exciting too, to be honest. I mean,
I don't think there's really any. I think that's why we paused, because I don't think there's really any difference between the two.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to make a product demo video, for example, that's maybe something, where you still need to put some screen casts in there. Or,
when it comes to like UX, UI elements, like I guess that's probably where functional.
But it's about making these things exciting too. I think that's the power of motion too, right? That's what we use it for as well. We love to put little UI elements into our like brand cases, for example, if it's just a little button press.
But then also like when we're building like an app, for instance, right, we have what we call delightful moments. So these are like rewards for the experience. So like, I know if you check in somewhere or you've made a purchase or something like this, we all know the swipe from Amazon, it makes things really easy, whether that's good or bad. That's maybe for another conversation. But these little delightful moments become part of a much bigger story. So they're not necessarily isolated or siloed into something, for them not to feel forced, they have to be part of a bigger experience.
And we combine these, right? The functional and the more exciting, expressive moments. Because, it's like you use an app, you go through the user flow and click here, click there, answer here, and then at the end you get like the nice reveal, the nice reward.
There's a really important thing as well, is that brands shouldn't just be consistent, they also need to be flexible as well. So the moments that you're experiencing with inside of a product, you need to see that at one of the first touch points. Maybe that's a billboard, for instance, or I know somebody's sharing it with you from socials, or you come to it somehow, but its role within socials and its role within an out of home can be as elegant as each other and as expressive, but they serve different things, but they all need to kind of work together. Yeah.
And these functional moments can represent, again, the behaviors of the motion principles anyway. I think animating color palettes is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
In brand cases. So there's so many different ways on how you can animate a color palette, and it is just probably something to go deeper and like write a little article and collect the best color palette animations from the brand.
Yeah, that would actually be really cool, actually, because it really is a blank canvas when you start to think about, okay, now we get to the color palette, what do we do with it? Do we even keep it in, or does it become like a highlight moment with inside the case? There's one project that we did. I mean, you can also show some like screen grabs or whatever of this, but it's from DAYY, and DAYY is service design studio, and this is a really great example of showing how the simplicity of motion can tell a much bigger story. So they have this idea that they don't have a 5-year plan. They don't look at like this bigger long-term picture. They focus on solving problems and working day by day. And for us to create a visual representation of that, to create a kind of compelling story, we used a gradient, and that gradient was animated. So it was motion, right? And it went from day to night and everywhere in between as well. So it reflected the current state in your space. And that was able to be translated from a website. So on the stage of the website to their office space. So they had digital screens within their office, which are illuminated by the same gradient. So already you're being immersed in motion and immersed through this idea and this story in multiple different ways, in a super functional, very simple way. I think that's a really good testament of how, like what you asked, how can something be beautiful and creative, yet what's the difference? And that's what I'm saying. It can be beautiful and creative, yet functional at the same time.
So for that project, for example, was that one where, again, you just sort of snuck motion in there and you kind of didn't talk about it too much up front, and you kind of just showed them as you went, as you were developing the brand?
Well, I mean, you have to, because if you try and explain that to a client who's probably paying quite a bit of money, we've got this idea, right? We're going to do a gradient. What do you think? It's a bit lame, innit? Right? But when you really, the way that I explained it, when it's contextual, it's far more than that. And that's that, if you just try and explain a nuance in motion, it's like probably when you're talking to a client, they have to get the bigger picture. They have to understand the story. And in some way, they also have to trust you that you're going to take them on that story. Because if you just isolate moments, it loses that impact. So I wouldn't say it's, in this case, it was snuck in. It just became really part of the process of being able to explain the story.
I'm curious, how long's Hyperfocus been around for now? How long have you guys been? When did you start?
We're coming up to 5 years, actually.
Oh, it's 5 years. Has it always been quite integral since like you first started out, or is it something that you've kind of weaved more into the process as you kind of grown and been working with more brands?
Yeah, it definitely has grown with us. No, at the beginning, I mean, we both are now motion designers, and we started on our own. So we had to make our way I mean, at the beginning, you use more like references that, that show, okay, this is how motion could work. And then you hope for, okay, let's make this happen. And when we execute, like a brand, for example. But yeah, then like, yeah, I mean, we build the team then so it works, so we can make it more like an important part of what we do and integrate it into our processes and
It's
our
also
projects.
it's also a sign of the times as well, like just how things have changed. I mean, how you can actually bring motion into product as well has completely changed. It's become a lot lighter. So when we started, or even before that, the invention of Lottie files, for example, enabled what we were talking about, delightful moments, to actually happen. Before that, you were using like MP4s, so products are really heavy, and this is the last thing that you want, like loading time on an app or something. So the whole like approach has shifted and changed, and it's evolving today as well. And that's allowed us to be able to like imagine things and express things even deeper in a different way that we could have done like 5 years ago.
And I think also the access now is a bit easier, right? So I mean, you can do quite a lot with Figma already in terms of motion, which was not possible back in the days 5 years ago. There was just After Effects, basically.
Yeah. And lots of other programs coming through as well that are also challenging After Effects and doing great stuff as well.
Yeah, we've been experimenting with Cavalry quite a lot.
Rive's really cool as well for like website integrating animations. Have you guys played around with that much before?
No,
Jermaine has Cavalry.
Cavalry, yeah, Cavalry and Rive. Rive is like better Lottie files. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. It's like the kind of big brother of Lottie files. So it gives you a little bit more control, and you can kind of do more with that on the web.
And we did it for the Running Man for all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, we motion tracked, but then we also turned like characters into dots as well and stuff like this. So
I really liked
Jermaine seemed to like it a lot.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, Cavalry is like an interesting one. Like the data, we're kind of playing around with like the data input side of things, because I think that's one of like the interesting things that it does very differently from After Effects, is like being able to manipulate the animation through like input data. So like Excel sheets and stuff like that, you can feed that in and it will manipulate like what happens within the animation, which I think is like super interesting. I think for like case studies and stuff, anything that's database, I don't know, we're trying to think about what we can do with it. And
I mean, lots of like tech companies are using it, as you can imagine, for like visualizing data and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool one. Definitely a cool one.
I guess it'd be cool to know like what you guys would like to see more of when it comes to motion within branding, not just for yourselves, but across the platforms.
I think I have something, but I'm not a motion designer, right? So I don't use the programs. But I think Adobe could definitely modernize the whole user experience. It feels quite old school. I think Adobe in general, to be honest, it just feels very kind of clunky. And I know they're trying to work on that and make that better. But if I'm jumping in and out from Creative Suite back into Figma, where we do most of our work, it's just a whole different ball game. So we're still working in After Effects and then bringing like clips in that we're then playing in Figma when we're showing. But I think if they were able to, I know I use a lot of processing power, so does Figma as well. But if there's some way of modernizing the whole like environment and maybe making it more collaborative somehow, I think that would be really great for if I'm speaking on behalf of the motion industry. That could be something that could definitely be worked on.
Yeah, I think with the like Figma and all these other platforms coming out, it's really made like Adobe having to, pick up their game a little bit. Because obviously before that, for a long time, they didn't really have any competition. They were just who you had to use. So I think with the use of all these other tools coming out and all these other platforms, it's given some competition, and it's made them have to kind of rethink a little bit the setups and how they operate.
Didn't Cavalry just announce they're bringing out a collaboration feature? I think. I don't know if I'm misremembering that, but I think they
Yeah,
are.
okay.
But all these platforms are continuously like dropping new features and improving. Like Figma's coming on leaps and bounds. Like say you can do motion in there now and all this other cool stuff. So I think it definitely puts the pressure on Adobe to kind of step up their game a bit.
Yeah, I also feel like looking at more like from the brand studio perspective and how brand and design studios use motion to showcase their work. It's a bit like what happened with the mockups. I feel like, at the beginning, like the first people, they took their own photos, they built little sets with business cards and pens and papers. And then came like the first, I remember the first thing was a book with like a CD attached to it. And then you had like a lot of mockups
Oh, I remember that.
that came with that book. Yeah. So the whole thing developed, and then more and more people got, like, after they did it themselves, take their own photos, use mockups, and then the access to these mockups became just like everyone has now access to pretty much every kind of mockup, right? And there are tons of pages, and they're not expensive. And I feel like the same is happening with motion. Pretty much mandatory now to have like motion stuff in your cases. So I think at some point you just need to find a way to be maybe more distinctive as well. I just remember that at the DNAD I showed like the lady from Studio Dumba. I showed her like a little video from what we did, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we did like something exactly the same." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this quite often as well." So
Yeah, there is. I mean, for all of us, I think we'll have to step up our game as well. I mean, you see like a kind of like reaction to certain methods of showing work, like a bento, for instance. I still like them, but there's still, there's now studios say, bento, it's done. Think of something else. I mean, because bento is just a great way of showing work, but I think we need to not just look at other people and try to imitate what's there. I mean, I've seen so many posts or articles about this is how brand looks right now, and it's just a big fat font with a flat color in the background, and they could all just merge into one. I think we have the potential with motion as well for us to kind of address that, and not for us all to just generally look the same and for everything to move the same. That's what I mean. For us, like we really like studios like Accept and Proceed or Kerper Hosk as well. Right on the to the other side where you have somebody like Jessica Walsh, and they're two very different polarizing perspectives and ways of approaching things. But it just shows that there's such a huge space to try different ways of approaching like how you present your work. And I think we kind of along the way, like with mockups, we use mockups, but we could become a bit complacent because it's so easy. You can buy an After Effects template and use it and manipulate it so it looks pretty cool. You can buy, a really great mockup of, the underneath of a bridge in London. So you have access to everything, but with the access to everything, then you run the danger of just being like everybody. And I think, that's something that we need to kind of think or stay in our heads, that we need to find a way of challenging those things and not just become complacent.
Yeah, like that. So how do you kind of challenge that? Like what are your kind of approaches to challenging those norms?
Great question.
I mean, also again, the day case.
Yeah.
Again, this animation in there just tells a very simple story, and it just fits to particularly this brand, right? And it's not just the gradient that moves; it's also like we animated the type. Everything is connected to like the sunrise and the day and night circle.
I think it's also about getting away from the usual, so we know where we look to get inspiration, but we also know where we used to look before we had access to that. And I think it's about kind of just looking or learning to look back in those spaces. And I think there is like a movement against that. So that Tyler, the creator's new album is called like Don't Tap the Glass or something. Yeah. I love that as from a cultural standpoint, meaning get away from what you know, just like it, because it's getting in the way somehow. And I also see this a lot as well. Like we talked with one of the presidents of the ADC, and she was also, when she was here, she was also saying, you know, there's a big shift back in the UK back towards craft as well, which I think is really important for us to be looking back and, you know, discovering the physical again and not being afraid of that. Because for the last like couple of years, it's been a celebration of technology, and that's great, but it's not the means to everything, you know, and there still needs to be that process. And I think it's really about, yeah, just opening our eyes and looking in different places and actually to get excited about it. And I think it's like, you know, studios like us or people like this in our position to actually give that space to say it's okay. Because if not, you know, you're just going to fall back into that pit of this is how it should be. You know, I should be using AI. I should be, you know, using all these tools. I should be doing what the next person's doing because they're excelling. But actually, that's not what it's ever really been about. You know, you need to find your own place and space. And I think studios need to celebrate that and nurture that, and that will ultimately give better work. I think, or not better work, but work that goes like more unexpected and more in a personal direction, and yeah, a place where you can make mistakes and, you know, find the stuff that you weren't necessarily looking for.
Yeah, I think that's more important now as well. Like as you're saying with the whole celebration of technology, obviously like AI is the hot topic and it's improving workflows, it's speeding up a lot of stuff. But I think like because of this rise of it, I feel like humans are like brands are, a lot of brands now are kind of like going a bit more for that imperfection. And I think like people are kind of seeking that more, that humanistic, like human feeling and approach to stuff. Like the more that AI is kind of rising and developing, I've been seeing like that as a bit more of a trait amongst like people's work, is just like little subtle imperfections in the way that stuff's come across, just so that it's like, it feels like you said, coming back to that idea of like craft. So it has that more kind of like human touch element to it rather than this kind of super polished. And I'm really all about that. I love a kind of a little bit of like an edge to something rather than it all being clean and serene and super kind of polished out. I think it's interesting. I think it will be interesting to see how that kind of continues to shift as well as things obviously just getting faster and faster with that space.
I mean, you know, go out there, you know, and you can combine it. You know, I don't mind, you know, like you know, some of the stuff that we've just done, we've produced like moments using AI, but then we added noise and we kind of we took out the imperfections and, you know, tried to introduce something that we know that's, you know, from maybe from an analog perspective or from another area, and not just like settled for what we were given, like a polished product, and then just moved on. And it's even better when you know, go out and do it yourself, you know, scrunch some paper, find a scanner, and do those things and bring those and add them to the things that you can make that we couldn't make before, because technology is a great thing. But there's also everything else that we've used for a long time that is great access for creativity. And when they're combined, then, you know, you can have a powerful tool.
I mean, it can just be used as any other sort of mixed media tool, right? And it's just a kind of tool where you're combining things together to get something unique.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you saw, one of my favorite examples of that recently was the Future Deluxe did that Beats by Dre advert, like maybe back in like February or something, and that was like a blend of live motion, 3D, CG, AI, topography. I think they did in it or something like that.
Just everything smushed together.
Yeah, it was just like all of these combined things, and it was just yeah, it was just really fucking cool. I think again, that combination. But I think like I said, I think that handcrafted, like bringing those elements together, like you were saying, is going to be more important because there is now, because like everyone's got access to all these tools. There's so much like polished, perfect kind of stuff going out, and I think that combining it with actual like grit and a bit more humanistic is going to be where brands are going to stand out, in my opinion. But yeah, speaking of AI, we obviously have to pick it up in some regard. What kind of ways do you experiment with it as a studio? Like, what kind of tools do you find useful? Like, is there anything in particular that you guys are using it for?
I'm just a ChatGPT heavy user.
We use it for a lot of stuff. I mean, we spoke at Future Playgrounds actually, where we did a talk on AI and AI in the process. But we're using it, I suppose, mainly to kind of
Replace stock.
to sketch ideas. And we've also seen it when we're working with 3D artists, that they'll, prompt some stuff to give an impression, and then, we'll work from there. And I think that's great. That speeds up the workflow as well, and it just makes things a bit easier. But we don't take away the value of 3D artist. So we're using that. We've also, tried using. We've used it in motion as well. We've used like create generated video clips as well, which we've added to other video clips of stuff that we did for Heim Planet, which we actually showed today. Inside of that, there's parts of video that we wouldn't necessarily be able to add. Heim Planet's like it's an outdoor brand, and they designed this inflatable tent, which is like it's super cool. And they have like a very kind of lifestyle-y look to it. But one of the big things around what they do from a brand perspective is the photography and the video that they do. It's like epic. There's like lots of mountain scenes, and they go all over the world. And this really sets the scene for the product. But we want to add some stuff. We can't go out and, commission somebody to go film something. So we're able to add like moments that complement what's already been made to make something even bigger. So we've used AI to do that, and it looks really seamless. It doesn't. It's not jarring. It's not like it doesn't take you out of the moment. You're like, oh, okay, that feels a bit off. It just fits, and I think when it's used like that, it works really well. And we've also experimented a bit with portraits as well, and bringing some of that stuff as well into our work. And again, we'll use it as potential placeholders, and then we'll say, look, we suggest you should work with a photographer in this style, and then work with a photographer. So there's multiple different kind of ways, but it hasn't necessarily like led the way. It's just been part of getting to where we wanted to get to.
That's interesting you use that on Heim Planet, because wasn't that a few years ago that you did that, or is this like ongoing work with them?
It's ongoing work.
Right. Okay. I was gonna say, because I was like, I remember that like the actual like the original project was what, like 2 years ago or so?
No, we've been working with them for years.
Okay. I was gonna say, what you were saying, I was like, was AI good? Then I didn't remember, but if it makes sense if it's ongoing.
No, we recently updated some like sizzle reels and stuff of like some of the products, and we added the like flyovers of some mountains, and then also there's a beetle on a tree on a leaf in the forest and stuff like this.
Yeah,
That was AI generated.
Yeah, it's all AI. Yeah, and all the fly-throughs as well. It's all AI.
Do you find it's impacting, like when brands come to you with projects? Do you find it's impacting? One thing I'm hearing quite a lot with people that I meet and speak with is like brands tend to now expect things for cheaper, faster turnaround. even if AI isn't necessarily going to be weaved into the process at all. I don't know how you found that. Like, have you found that like kind of clients are expecting more for less, or expecting stuff to be done quicker because there's this perception that like, oh well, AI's around now and you can just get it done quickly. Like, why can you not do this quickly? Or do you think that's a case of maybe where people aren't educating clients properly around like when and where it should be used?
I think there's been a bit of a phase. There's definitely like certain parts of what we do have been devalued and de-appreciated because of the access. You know, we worked with clients in the past where they have generated stuff themselves and then said, well, this good enough, innit? Look at this, you know? So for them, that's their way of doing it. But it's always kind of been like that, you know? Like I remember back in the day when I was designing flyers, right? And one of the clients that came in had installed Photoshop on their computer, and they knew it all, right? So they knew better than me, right? And that's not necessarily what you're paying for. You're not just paying to get somebody to move things around, although sometimes a client would want you to do that. But you're also just paying for like your expertise and your knowledge and, you know, like trusting you as well. So I think we're seeing the same thing today. You know, we're seeing that people suddenly, it's the same when people first had access to photography. You know, just because you have a phone on your camera doesn't mean you're a photographer. You know, I mean, it democratizes it. I think everybody should be able to have access to this. But then, you know, I think we're getting to the stage now where we've seen, you know, the accountant or Mr. PR or whatever generate something on LinkedIn of him in a cardboard box or whatever, you know, to decide that, okay, that was nice. I'll get back to my real job and I'll let the experts do it. And I think, you know, we get into a point where we're starting to see the differentiation between the wheat and the chaff, you know, so it actually, the value is coming back. Well, I think we had to go through that because it's such a new technology and had such a profound impact on everybody and everything that it was always going to make a big stir, and it still is, but we're starting to see things coming out of that.
Yeah, I would also say that it's not, I mean, that people are trying to automate things and, you know, get stuff for less budget is not just because of AI, because also just like the whole industry, the money is tight, right? So they got pressure from above. I think that's maybe even more a reason that people are not willing to spend so much money anymore, because I think when
AI offers a quick fix to that, doesn't it? In people's eyes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't see it's there yet, to be honest. In our like where we work in our industry, there is no AI that can generate a logo that would work for a global company, to be honest.
No.
And it's not just creating the logo, it's everything around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Managing stakeholders, conversations, and having everyone in the loop. That's actually what, you know, what's expensive and what costs money. So that's not going away.
Yeah, I feel the same with motion as well. I feel like I think like character traditional animation is quite threatened by it at the minute. Obviously, like with, you know, obviously that whole Ghibli craze where everyone was putting that stuff out through ChatGPT, and yeah, I think fortunately like motion, because it's more, you know, I guess similar to brand new design where it's more graphic design based, right? Like it's a lot more there's a lot more kind of has to be a lot cleaner. It has to be I can't think what I'm saying now. I'm definitely flagging. But it can't replicate like stuff like type and the movement of type and like those kind of like 2D motion. I think it's impacting animation, but fortunately for us, not really impacting motion so much.
Yeah, I think the one good thing about it is that it definitely separates the people where AI is good enough to do the job and they don't then have to get a team of people. And if it's fine for them, that's great, because then we get to focus on working with the people who want to do more than just, you know, the base level of, okay, that's good enough, move on.
So I'm also curious. One last question for you. What do you have coming up? What's on the horizon for Hyperfocus? You got anything exciting coming out soon? Anything that you can share with us? Yeah, just love to hear about what you're excited about moving forward for you and the team.
I mean, we're on a roll at the moment with cases, so we've managed to finish up a lot of stuff. So if anybody's following us, then you'll see that there's some cases going to start to be pumped out over the next couple of weeks, which is great because it takes a long time to do these. Won't say too much about what they are. The first one was the orb case, which you saw, which was also heavy on motion as well. I showed you some stuff at the DAYY. Also, so we're really proud of that. And there's everything that you'll see will be like awash with motion. One case that we're going to promote is the content pass stuff, which is coming out soon, next day or so, which again is motion heavy. So there's a lot of that coming, and also like we run a YouTube channel as well. What do we do on that YouTube channel? Yeah. So we interview people like what you're doing, and yeah, I mean the channel's kind of going like really well at the moment, kind of going from strength to strength, I suppose. We end up speaking to DAYY because of that on the back of the channel, which I think is really cool, and we've got quite a lot of cool interviews lined up as well. Next one is actually Marius from B4B, or BVB as the Brits would call it, the football club. So we're talking brand there. I've also got Wolf Hollins as well.
Ah, sweet. Who's joining you from there?
Who's joining us from Wolf Hollins?
Wayne.
Amazing. I think I got Wayne joining in like Feb as well. He's maybe a fun guest.
Yeah,
We
super,
have some cool stuff.
super nice guy. Yeah.
Ragged Edge.
Oh, Ragged Edge. Oh, that's gonna be really cool because Ragged Edge just kind of if you're in the brand scene, I mean they're great, and they've just made a big stir around their rebrand. It looks great, and we're going to be sitting down with Max and just talking a little bit like this about why do we need to do this. And I think that they're also a good testament, especially what they've done is to kind of try and break out the mold and remember or reminisce somewhat on why they started, and then bring that into today and really hit that message home again. And you know, they're saying that they're not afraid of brave, and they don't want to be doing the boring somewhat. So that's going to be really cool. So we've got lots of stuff coming up.
Awesome. Wicked. I'll have to check that out properly. I think I saw it pop up on LinkedIn, but I didn't properly look into it. But yeah, I feel like a lot of brands steering towards that more kind of like out there branding now, which is cool to see. But yeah, I will put links down below for YouTube channel, hyperfocus.cc, all the rest of it. Keep eyes peeled on their channel.
Brand review.
Review, that'll be in there as well, don't worry. We'll get all that down there. But yeah, big thanks for jumping on with us. It's always a pleasure to see you too. And yeah, nice to kind of shoot the shit a little bit around all this and yeah, chat. And we still need to organize us coming over and getting on brand review. We'll get around to it at some point when things are not crazy. But yeah, it's been really, really good to have the two of you on. And yeah, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for your time.
Nice.
Pleasure, and
and
thank you.
having us. And yeah, looking forward to meet you here in Hamburg.
Yeah,
Nice
one, man. We gotta get a little, because I always need a little screenshot. Paul just looking real. I thought you were just gonna stay like that the whole time. Then.
Just saying.
Amazing.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Months in Motion. Make sure to go and check out Hyperfocus's work as well as their podcast on their YouTube channel. All is linked in the description down below. And if you like this episode, make sure to check out some of our other episodes, which will be shown on the screen now.